All right, everyone, welcome to another session of the Flourish Study Guide Experience. We are winding down our time, Bucky.
Yeah, it's been a great season of flourishing, and thanks for being involved with us. We've really enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Yeah, we're into session 9 this week, which is crazy to think. But before we jump into session 9, of course, we want to take a look back. We're going back to session 8 for a second. This was the whole chapter on conversational models. I know for me, Bucky, as I look at this conversational thing, again, we're after the church legacy of proclamation,
Right.
shouting at people, scaring them into heaven, jumping into their eternity. And I don't know that model has worked really well in terms of people having really open and willing hearts to receive it. So, what do you think that people must take away from the conversational chapter?
I just think that, like you say, Ben, we're in a different place in our culture. It's a post-Christian culture, and people want to explore truth. They're open to truth.
Yeah.
And I think a great conversation, a great God conversation, really starts with great questions, not answering the questions before you even start. You want to connect with the person where they're at their heart, ask great questions about their story, about their belief system, and understand where they're coming from. And that begins a respectful dialogue where you can actually then give an answer to the hope that's within you in the dialogue. I think that's the most effective way in today's world.
Yeah, we got to remember that what we're suggesting is that the future of evangelism is a conversational one, a conversational evangelism, and that will lead to flourishing. When we actually pave the road for good news by sitting down and having a relational, authentic dialogue with someone across the table, across the street, across the yard, when we have our conversations filled with nuance and sensitivity, we keep things personal. All of that was kind of founded in the story of the Samaritan woman, the conversation that Jesus has with her.
Right.
So go back and have another look at that. Find out how God wants to use you to bring living water springing up from your life into the lives of others. So really powerful idea there. Moving into session 9, authentic love. Man, Bucky, that is a personal statement for us.
Right.
I know that I love how the chapter starts here, talking about really a counterfeit, not just a counterfeit world, but a counterfeit church even. I mean, there are broken leadership relationships, broken trust with church leadership, broken belief in the model that the church has used and how they've used their power and their influence. And that's led to a real jaded kind of generation. So that's important to redeem even that word authentic.
Right. Yeah, and I think authentic starts with this whole conversation that Jesus has with a religious leader of his day, and the conversation is about testing Jesus and testing the law. And the whole conversation, Jesus turns back against the man and asks him authentic questions. But what Jesus is trying to get at is that authentic love really isn't possible without God at the center of our lives.
Right.
It's not something we can manufacture. It's not something that comes from a church program or a church structure, even a church vision statement. It has to come from an incarnational, intimate relationship with Christ that transforms our heart and gives us the kind of heart that spills out in love.
Yeah.
And so that's really what Jesus is after when he talks about what the law is about and what it's about. It's really about authentic love.
Yeah, and I love just listening to the message, which is online now. You can go and check it out if you missed the message on session 9. But you talk about answering the culture's question with another question.
Right.
And that's what Jesus does in this wonderful passage here from Luke 10. You got that religious elite. And here we are speaking from that angle, the religious elitists. And yet we're trying to learn the Jesus relational way. That's what authenticity is so relational. And we've missed the point, keeping things hyper-performance, hyper-religious. And Jesus is saying, look at it, just show me your heart. Show me the pathway to your heart.
Right.
I think what's so cool, personally, as this session starts to wind down, Bucky, is that talk about, again, flourishing, this idea of flourishing. Well, we believe that authentic love is the pathway through acts of service, and I want to hear from you on this, that you'll then begin to see a city transformed. You'll begin to see a city flourishing. And what better metric, by the way, for finding out is a church have authentic love or not than to look at its surrounding community, look at its city.
Right.
So we have this wonderful end point, but the pathway is definitely these acts of service, Bucky. Marry that concept there, acts of service, authentic love. Bring that together for us. Speak to that.
Yeah, I think that when we allow God to love us and we really grasped the immensity of what God did for us when he sent his son and Jesus' life and death for us and all that he did for us, as we take that in, the amount of forgiveness and grace. Our love, our hearts can't help but overflow, right? And to move with God's heart to those in our communities, our circles of influence, that don't have the economic opportunities, that don't have the relational opportunities, that don't have the educational opportunities. And we can't help but go and try to bless them and serve them so that their life can flourish. Not just flourishing comes when we give our lives away, not just focusing on ourselves. You know, and that's how those things come together.
Yeah,
right?
that's certainly how Jesus served. That's how he lived his life, all the way to the point of the cross. So he gave it all. He laid it all down. There's no more authentic example than what Jesus does by offering his body for the world while we were still sinners.
Right.
While that was the passage you talked about. He's talking to the religious elite. He says, "I didn't come for the healthy, those who think they have it all together, and they are the source of their salvation plan. I came for those who are admitting that they're sick."
Right.
I know that I'm in that camp. My life is far from perfect. I'm relying on a power outside myself to save me.
Right.
So that's a beautiful picture. And there's some great application here too, Bucky. Too. I think this was your idea here with the relational map. People can sketch out who are some of their office, colleagues. Who are some of their neighbors? Write down those names and explain the relationship there. So that's a great assignment, people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just begins with, who are my neighbors? Do I even know their name? Do I even know their story? And it starts there. Can I build a relationship with my neighbor? Maybe it's inviting them over for dinner, or going to a park and hanging out with the kids and playing, and just building a relationship. The conversation comes after that, but the bridge of trust is built when we have authentic care for the person and their life and their story. That's where we want to start. How do we do that?
Right. Perfect. Well, we hope that you guys could really lean in and prayerfully consider the challenge, the journal opportunity through the whole of session 9. There's so much there you could really unpack and apply for your own heart, your own circumstance. And we hope that you'll join us for the next session, session 10 on generosity. This is a mega theme. This is a mega concept cover to cover through the Bible. So we hope that we can lean into that and find out this issue that's pretty sensitive. Our time, which is a precious resource, our stuff, our money. How does God want to use those to leverage his kingdom? Right. So he loved talking about kingdom. We know Jesus loved talking about kingdom, money, kingdom, our heart. It's all in the mix for this next session.
Yeah, that's where authentic love really becomes real. The rubber meets the road when we pull into our wallet and pick out the resources that we have and give it away to others. That's when love becomes real, right?
Yeah, you can measure it right there. So thank you guys so much for joining us for session 9, and we'll see you next week.
All right. God bless.